Okay, this is Skills Practice 2.5, and it's line plots. Line plots are very easy to read if you know how to read a bar graph, or if you know how to read a number line, then you can do this. This is very simple. Now, one thing I noticed whenever some students are taking notes on these, they're just copying notes, copying down what I write, and they're not really thinking about what I'm saying. I want you listening to me, and I want you to think about what I'm telling you in the video. And if there's anything you don't understand where a number came from or something, you need to ask, because you're not learning anything if you are not asking any questions ever. Because I don't think you understand everything I tell you sometimes. Number one, these are the average points per game for NBA leading scorers. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 basketball players here, and these are their average points per game. So when we put this on a line plot, the very first step to drawing one is draw a line graph or a number line. Okay, mine's not perfect, but if I had a ruler, it would look a lot better. Okay, look at your smallest number in the data. What would it be? Smallest number I see is 21. Is there anything less than that? No. And then the biggest number is 30. So I could count all the way from 21 to 30. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. And it's going to get a little crowded with this. It's kind of hard to write with a stylus, this tiny. 28, 29, 30. Okay? And then you are simply going to put an X around or on top of each number for each one there is. So there's a 25. Go over the 25 and put an X. 21, 21, 25. There's another 25. 22, 30, 26, 30, 25, 21, and 21. Okay? Now, really, and if you're doing this on paper, and especially if you're doing this on grid paper, you can do it a lot neater. You have your whole first row of X's are all lined up together, and your second row of X's are all lined up. Your third row of X's should all be lined up together too. So I'm going to make that one up there. Now, why is it important that you do that? That way you can quickly see which column is the tallest. If you have your X's all different sizes and not lined up, it's going to be hard to read it. And the point of graphing data is to make it easy to read, so you're not looking at a table full of numbers, that you can find quickly what number's the most. I see that 25 is the most because it has a very tall height there, and so is 21. It also has one that's taller than all the others. What kind of graph does this remind you of when you look at it this way? That looks like a bar graph. Okay, now we need to name these numbers. What are these numbers? Average points per game. We can just put points down here. And what does each X represent? Each X represents what? A basketball player. All right, let's do number 2. This is the daily high temperature for a 2-week period. So we have how many temperatures here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Well, that would make sense because this is a 2-week period. How many days are in 2 weeks? 14. So each temperature represents how warm it got that day. So let's start by drawing your number line. This time, instead of writing each number, I'm just going to count by 5s. Okay, that way my numbers are not so crowded. What's the smallest number we have? Smallest number I see is a 62. What is the biggest number we have? It must be 72. Okay, so if I'm going to make these less crowded, I'm going to say I'm start with 60, and then I'm going to mark all of them, but I'm only going to label every other one. Every 5. 61, 2, 3, 4, 5. 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75. Okay, now we are simply going to put an X for each number for each temperature. So there's 71. Remember, I want my X's to line up. There's another 71. 75. I want it to kind of be on the same row as this X over here. Okay. 65. 65. 68 is here. 71. 62. 70. 71. 65, 70, 72. Is this the first 72 I've had? Yep. And 72. Okay. So now I can quickly see my tallest one is right here. That's 71. And then I had some really short ones. All right, so how would we label these numbers down here? What do they represent? They're all temperatures. Let's just put temps. And what does each X represent? Each X is a day. Okay. Let's go down to the bottom one and let's answer some questions about this. Before we answer questions about it, though, I want to talk about what it looks like. It says that these are math test scores, and they're all the percents. So this is a title, and we didn't put titles on the ones above. Okay, but the title was up here. Okay, these were the titles. So a title on any graph or chart is extremely important so that the reader knows what it is they're looking at. Okay, then if we were going to analyze it, what does each X represent? Each X represents a person. There was 2 people that made 75s on the test. I wonder why there's no 100s on here. All right, now one thing that bothers me about this is at the bottom it says years. And I think that maybe the people that made this workbook, they were just copying and pasting a line graph from another problem and they forgot to change that. What would that be? Instead of years, that would be what? What are these numbers down here? These are scores. So that should say scores instead of years. Okay, how many students had a score of 80% on the math test? So let's go find 80. How many students are there that made an 80? There's only 3. Which test score did the most students score on the math test? Well, here you're looking for the tallest one because that has the most X's on it. So that would be what grade? An 85? What is the difference between the highest and lowest test score? Here you have to know that the word difference means you're going to have to subtract. So find the highest score, which is a 95, and subtract the lowest score, which is a 75. Now remember, you're only looking for the ones with the X's. So if there was a 100 up here but no X's on it, you wouldn't use that. You would use the biggest number that has an X minus the lowest number that has an X. 95 minus 75. So what's the difference? 20. What do we call that when we're talking about mean, median, mode, and range? We just found the range. So we'd say the scores range from 75 to 95. Okay, number 6, write 1 or 2 sentences that analyze the data. I'm going to allow you to do this part in your summary. I want you to write 2 sentences that analyze the data. Sentences that analyze. Okay, I'm going to be looking for 2 when you're doing this.